Hello and welcome. In this lecture, I'll be showing you what a very basic PHP syntax looks like. Syntax basically refers to how a PHP code is written. So I'm going to show you a very basic syntax. So this is what the PHP syntax looks like. PHP can be embedded inside a HTML document. So you can embed your PHP code anywhere inside the HTML document. So if you embed the PHP code, the rest of the code inside the HTML will be HTML. But when it comes to where it sees a PHP syntax, anywhere where it sees the beginning and the end like that, and any code between that, it will treat that as a PHP file. So you begin with this left angle bracket and then the question mark, and then you end it with a question mark and the right angle bracket, and anything in between is the actual PHP code. So the actual PHP code is basically referred to as a statement, because when you're giving instructions to computer reads the code as a bunch of statements, and it reads it from top to bottom, from left to right. Sometimes the statements or the PHP code are also referred to as script. So you may often hear people say PHP script. It's the same thing as the statement. PHP files are executed on the server. What that means is that when the PHP code runs, it is a server that processes that code, but it will then return HTML back to the browser. It returns plain HTML back to the web browser. So let's take a look at a typical example, how we're going to embed PHP code inside a HTML document. So open up your web browser. If you are using Atom, like I am, after the installation, you get a screen like this, multiple windows. We don't really need all this. All we need is the editor. So you can just X out of all these windows just by clicking on them, and you'll be left with just the browser. So this is where we'll write our piece of code. So before we do that, I want to create a folder inside the directory, the root directory, that the XAMPP server will look for PHP files. So in our previous video, I created a shortcut from the htdocs. htdocs is the folder that the PHP web server will look for in order to serve up PHP files. So I'm going to click inside the file here, the folder, and I'm just going to create a new folder. It's going to be a text simple folder. I'm just going to say test, and I will place my PHP files inside this test folder. All right, so now that I've got my folder, I'm going to save this file. I'll do file save as, and I'm going to save it into that file, that folder I've just created. And when you save PHP files, you have to save it with a .php extension. So I'm calling this file index.php. So the PHP server will look for an index.php anywhere you've got a PHP application. So I'm going to click save. So the content, sometimes this editor can play up. All right, so you can see now that's the folder in my htdocs that is saving the PHP file to. So I'm going to add some HTML code, and I'm going to embed PHP inside the code. So here is our first PHP file. So we see we've got the HTML document here. This is a doc type. So you can embed PHP code anywhere inside HTML document. So you can see from line 7 to 11 is a PHP code. All right, so the web browser will process the HTML separately from the PHP. The PHP part will be processed by the server, and then the server will return a plain HTML back to the web browser. So echo, this echo here is a built-in PHP function, and it's basically used to output text on the screen. So this is what's going to output hello world on the web browser. Also with PHP code, if you write in the statement, you must terminate the statement with a semicolon. You can see I've got the semicolon here to terminate the statement. All right, so now I'm just going to save all, and then I'm going to open up a web browser page and test our first PHP page. Make sure you've got Apache started in the control panel for XAMPP. If it hasn't started, just click on start. All right, and make sure your port is showing. So mine is going to be running on port 8080. So now I'm going to open up a web browser. So you can see my page. This is the server, and it has served up our first PHP script. All right, so it says this, you can see the code here, and it is the echo statement here. This echo is a built-in function. This function here is what's responsible for displaying this text hello world. This here is HTML, which is this h1 tag, but this actual hello world is PHP. So that's basically how you embed PHP inside HTML. Another key thing to note is that the web server is looking at a specific location to pick up. You notice I created a directory for my PHP. So inside the XAMPP htdocs, I've got a directory called test, and inside there I've got the index.php. So the file that is being served by the web browser is this index.php file. So that's it for this lecture on the PHP syntax. We were also able to create a basic PHP test page. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.